So, all right. So we're going to get into compositions and uh, to really say there's going to be a lot of, you can see composition tools. Well, let's go through this first. I kind of start, this is me. Um, so I know you're here new with us, Diana, and
Mhm.
my motto is live life with strength, love, and adventure. And I actually have it tattooed down my forearm.
Oh,
But I was born and raised here in Washington State. I grew up in Shoreline, and Seattle's the furthest I moved away from Shoreline. And my husband and I live aboard our boat. Her name is Our Dance,
oh,
and but we're both big outdoors people. And I picked up a camera long time ago. Probably just started documenting my children, and one day I just realized it, taking the pictures of them, that all of a sudden it fed my soul in a different way than just loving my kids, right? It was
mhm.
all of a sudden it was like, wait, I really like this. And then I started hiking, and I'm like, how do I capture and keep these amazing places that I'm going? And it's like I realize my camera is what can help keep those memories for me. And so that's how basically I really got into photography a lot. And then I started photographing high school seniors and families, and so I do a lot of portraits also, but landscape and travel is definitely my love. So today our and we will go probably a little over because of the fiasco of getting the Zoom call going today. But we're going to talk about composition, why composition is important, the top 3 compositional tools, not rules, the rest of the tools, and then we'll talk a little bit, a few other tips. So, what is composition? You always hear composition. Composition is so important. Uh, and this is Ian Plant, a photographer that I follow. I really enjoy his work, and but I'll read it with you here. It's composition is much more than just visual structure. It is how you tell your subject story to your viewers and how you relate your artistic expression to others. Composition is all about translating a place, a moment, an emotion into a piece of two-dimensional art without losing that which makes the place, moment, or emotion special. In a sense, composition forces the viewer, perhaps entices or invites the viewer, is a better way of putting it, to see what the artist sees and to feel what the artist feels. As an artist, composition is your tool for showing others the world in a way that they don't see on their own. It is your way of capturing the mysterious and the fleeting and preserving it all to experience. Excuse me, preserving it for all to experience. And I absolutely love that because composition is not, there's no like only one way, and if you don't do it that way, you're wrong. And that's why I absolutely love photography is as an art, there is no right or wrong. You get to uh, share what you see. And constantly, I'm sharing my work all over Facebook and Instagram, and people are always going, thank you for letting me see the world through your eyes. So it's um people recognize it's like this is what me as a photographer I see and how I see the world and how I want to share it with others. But all what you'll see is totally different. Our We just went on that photo walk on Sunday at the Ballard Locks, and Paul was there, and I think 6 other people. So it was really
Mhm.
fun. And but we all were looking at, we were in the exact same place, and we all came away with something different. And so it was so fun to see. So many call these tools rules, and I just don't like it at all, the word rule. But composition tools can help with your photos, Um, but you as a photographer, you are the creator of your images. And I have a Facebook group. Wow, this sounds like I'm plugging a whole lot right now. Facebook group, but it's Lisa Mize Photography Creatives, because I believe we're all creatives. It's all in us. And you might be a tech person, but you still get to be creative in how you do development, or how you write code, and that sort of thing. But as artists, we are definitely creative, and we just are. Don't let anybody tell you different, that you maybe aren't creative, because I believe we all are in some way. So the importance of composition, as when we're doing photography, it brings variety to our photos, and it can make our photos more interesting and engaging. You can do different tools all in one photo, and we're going to go through all those to maybe strengthen a photo. But one of the most important things with uh, us as photographers is when we want our viewer to look at this photo, and we want their eyes to continue to look around, because if they just look at a photo and it's just there and gone, we want them to stay and mill about and take in the photos. So composition can help us guide our viewers eyes to where we want them to see. So here are the top 3 compositional tools. And the first one is rule of thirds. You've probably heard this. And it was created by the ancient Greeks. And imagine it like a tic-tac-toe. And I didn't even get my lines very straight and even in this little graph, but there we go. And my camera actually has the grid on. When I look through the viewfinder, I can add it in, and that can be super helpful. And the 4 intersecting lines are called the saddle points. And often to follow this tool is that your main subject you want to put over one of the saddle points, or the horizon you want to be across the lower or the upper. Let's say it's a sunset, so you want more of the sky, so the horizon might be on the lower line. But let's say your sky is not like this amazing one that's going on tonight. It's so pretty. That is just gray, boring. Well, you don't want that to be much in your photo if the sky's not interesting. So your horizon might be all the way up here with just a little bit of sky. And here's an example of this is Glacier National Park in Montana, and this is Apgar Village. And I was out there this one early morning to see the sunrise, and somebody had brought out these 2 chairs, and I was giddy, absolutely giddy. I didn't have to move them or anything. They were placed beautifully. And so I used this tool to put my chairs right here at the saddle point to help it be more of a pleasing. If I'd put them dead on, I wouldn't have got the same effect. So horizon is not in center. So here, I just talked about this. So here the sky's pretty boring. This is Oregon coast. So I put my horizon way up at the top third. So the bottom 2/3 is the interesting part of the photograph. And here, this is in Fairbanks, Alaska. And I put my horizon down here on the bottom third, and because the sky was pretty to look out with these clouds and with the tree coming up. So those are different ways to use the rule of thirds. Number 2 that most people work on are the leading lines, and or use. And I don't know if you I have to move our photos, our video around because they're covering my photos. So I gotta, if you can even tell that, I'm not sure. So when you're preparing to take a photo, learn to become aware of the lines around your subject or what are in your frame. And your leading lines can help guide the viewer's eyes to the subject or just further into your photos. So like in this first one, this is up at Mount Baker. Mount Shuckson is just to the left. This is Picture Lake that you can just see a hint of here. But they have these great boardwalks. The light was golden this morning, and so I used this leading line here with the boardwalk to just kind of lead you into the warmth of this light and the trees. This is on the Oregon coast, and I use this leading line to bring you right up to the lighthouse. And this would land, the lighthouse also would land just about on one of those saddle points, if you can imagine that grid across, that would be right there. And often the lines start somewhere on the bottom and lead you into the into the photo, but sometimes they can come in through the side too, or from the top. Here's a few other leading lines, or what can be leading lines. They can be fences, they can be buildings, they can be roads, rows of clouds, lines of trees, streams, and they don't necessarily need to be straight. They can be diagonal lines, they can be zigzags, they can be curves. And here's a river up in Alaska, close to Denali National Park, that was partially frozen over here. That it helps lead you through all the way through the photograph. And even though the lines don't lead up to the mountain, it still leads you through the photo. So you'll stop and look and see what's going on. This was another one, and oh goodness, I use a lot. This is in Fairbanks also. And I just love this road and this golden light. This was in December, not this last December, but the December before, where there's only like 4 hours of light, I think. And it was this yummy, yummy golden light, like most of the time. It was just spectacular. And we were really blessed by that. We went in February, January, this last January, total skunk. It was hot, well, hot. It was like 50 degrees and rainy and gross. And so we did not get to experience this again. So it made me appreciate this. I'm like, oh, every time we go to Alaska, it's going to be like this. But it's not. So this road is definitely a leading line that just takes you further into the photograph. The third main tool is like a frame on a wall. Picture a picture frame, and how that brings you in. It gives you these boundaries to bring your subject into the inside of that and frame your subject. And again, it's to guide your viewers' eyes to the main subject. Where do you want them to look? Archways, doors, trees, walls, windows. But you could use in portraits, if somebody goes like this, sorry, my headset's kind of in the way, but let's say they're my high school senior girls, I have them do this, and this is framing for their faces. So there's lots and lots of different ways to frame your subject. Oregon coast at the Sea Lion Cave. I'm actually standing inside the Sea Lion Cave, photographing out. There's a lighthouse right over here. But the waves were just crashing in here. So I used these walls to do the framing. This is Glacier National Park, and these gorgeous, gorgeous trees as I was driving around, and they just perfectly framed this Christmas tree, right? Can you get more Christmas than that? I was just so excited about it. But but using those brown trees to frame that gorgeous wintry Christmas tree. Here's a few more. You can use framing to add depth. So see how close this dead tree is here? It can adds depth to, here's Mount Baker in the background with this yummy golden light in Skagit. So here's another way to frame, helping your viewer feel what was going on and see what was going on as you were there. This is in Montana, Flathead Lake, I believe. And I just love this, that how the trees and this little walkway lead you out to this now partially starting to thaw lake. All right. Any questions on those first three before we move on?
I remember hearing something about your subject shouldn't be dead center, but in the framing, that's where almost everything is.
It can be. And actually, we are going to talk about dead center because
okay.
Sometimes I absolutely love dead center. So it just depends what you want to, what story or what you're trying to get across. Okay. So yeah, really good. Excellent, Diana. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So here are some more. Repetition. So again, these are just more tools that you can put in your camera bag and that can help bring a pleasing composition or pleasing visual pleasing to your viewer. So like leading lines, it can draw the viewer's eyes to the subject. It can be colors, shapes, parts of something, whole something. So in Italy, these gondolas just do, and then the lights, even themselves, are very repetitive, along with the poles that the gondolas tie up to. So this is St. Marcus Square in Italy also, and just the architecture is just repetitive over and over. So you can't not look this way, right? You just you will go from one side to the other. Your eyes are just drawn to the work that they were doing at that end. Negative space. I actually love using negative space. So it's the negative space is the empty space within a photo. It leaves breathing room around whatever you're looking at. And it's a minimalism. And here is a ice fisherman. In this one is in Montana, I believe too. And so just this vastness of white, and then just him sitting out there. I can't even imagine how cold he was, and I hope he was having fun. He was doing it, so I'm assuming he loves it somehow. Here's another. This is in Iceland, and I loved everything's white except for this blue sky, and it was just beautiful how it wrapped around and how the light came in, and so it totally brings your eye up to this this gorgeous light, especially in here, and then the blue sky. The next thing is color. So if you remember, if you took art class in school or anywhere, that you would know maybe about color theory, and knowing that color can add a lot of creativity, and opposites can add a lot of creativity in your photo. And so learning a little bit of color theory can be helpful. So here, if you take purple, the opposite of yellow is yellow. So if you can find those two colors in a photograph, that can be a super powerful image to show. Same with this blue and the orange, the red and the green. Hey, Christmas, right? So they have, you know, the primary, secondary. What are primaries? Blue, red, and yellow. Is that right?
Yes.
Are our
Yes.
primaries? And
Yes.
then all the others are secondaries. And then you can even get way deeper into this, that you have shades and all. So that's a big rabbit hole you can go down if you want.
Mhm.
But it really can show when you see those opposite colors. And then you can also do complementary colors. So the colors that are next to each other, those are another way to use color in a pretty impactful way in your photos. Balancing elements. This one I didn't even know about for a very long time. And then I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And it having balance in your photo it kind of like it brings a calmness, maybe it brings order. Maybe that's a better way to put it. It brings order to your photographs. So this is in Stockholm, Sweden, with a huge storm that just came through. And I balanced out this photo with the city hall and this sculpture here as people were sitting about just watching the storm along with me. But it was still, this is the subject of the photo was these amazing clouds and this storm that was just pouring through. But having these two anchors um, almost like framing too, kind of similar in that way, helped bring this composition together. This is at First Beach on our over on our peninsula, uh, outside of Quileute. And this is the foreground here with this stump, and then these islands that are out here. So it brings a balancing element between the two. So they can be side by side, they can be front and back, they can be high and low, but it's just balancing out uh, a photo that way. Another tool that we can have in our toolbox is differential or selective focus. And I do love selective focus. And once you learn your camera on manual, or at least aperture priority, you can learn how um, changing your f-stop can force your viewer to see what you want them to see. So this is a coffee shop in Gamla stan in Stockholm, and I had it was probably f 4.4. It was maybe f4 or so. Maybe as I can't remember which lens I had. So but how the coffee cup is clear, but do you see how it gets blurrier and blurrier out the door? So I didn't want you to look at this chair or what was in the window or outside. I wanted the focus to be the coffee cup. So I chose the f-stop to make that in focus. Here's up at our tulip fields, which are coming soon. Yay.
Mhm.
Hope you get to go up there. And so this definitely, you can see how I focused on these tulips forward, and then totally with the f-stop well, as wide open as my lens would allow me to be. So it was probably f4. It was probably f4 again. And that then blurs out the background. And this is also called bokeh, where you have the front in focus and then the back is blurred. Or you can even do bokeh. I could have focused here in the middle, and then the front would be blurry and the back would be blurry also, but just the middle. I wouldn't have done it because these guys are too tall to have done that. But that's another option in your photos, that it doesn't have to be what's in front. It could be what's in the middle. that you want to bring the viewer's eye to. Triangles is another dynamic tension. I love it. They call a dynamic tension for to lead your viewers' eyes. And a lot of a lot of portrait photographers use triangles to balance out when they do portraits, where they put the heads of family. Let's say you're doing a family, where you put the heads of the different family and so forth, and finding triangles all over. They can be upside down, they can be right side up, they can even, kind of be sideways. I don't remember all my geometry, so I don't even pretend to remember the names of all the triangles. But here is Lake McDonald at by Apcar Village in Glacier National Park, and you can see there's a triangle right here that kind of anchors this beautiful sunrise that was going on. Also, Glacier National Park, Swiftsure Lake. Oh, I should have looked that one up. I've forgotten. But the mountain itself provides a triangle to anchor, and that was kind of easy. This is fun because this is also a leading line. Both of these that bring you to the center, what then brings you straight up to the mountain. So fill the frame. What you were asking, Diana, that different things can be dead center. This is actually a very tiny part of a huge waterfall. And I just wanted to capture one little part of it. I thought the way the rocks slate were lined up like here, and then the water coming down. So I just filled the frame with this one little piece of this big waterfall. And then the very center of a tulip. And that filled the entire frame. And there's all sorts of flowers are really, really easy way to fill a frame with that way, but it could be a building, or it could be a anything that can you just want to maybe show how grand it is or how detailed it is. And if the background is just too distracting, you just want to bring it in and remove everything else that your eye would go that way. It could even be light that you don't want to lose your viewer to go to this weird light. You want them to stay focused.
Right.
Simplicity is a lovely tool to use. Again, it can reduce all the distractions in a photo. You can fill the frame. So it kind of goes along with the one I talked about. This is in the Dolomites. There was this beautiful light, but I just used all these clouds in here just for this tiny little focus of this grand, huge mountain range. And I just wanted to capture that little tiny part right there. This is in Iceland, the little yellow house, and we just stumbled upon this, and I love this, and sold a few prints of it. And a friend, actually, he used it. He's a musician, and he used it on his album cover.
Oh.
Which I was just so honored that he would want to do that, and that was pretty cool. But back to simplicity, it's just the little yellow house, and with all the white, but also you can see rule of thirds in here too, right? He's sitting right on the saddle point. I shot that also dead center, and it actually looks really good too. But I just happened to find that the little house off center a little bit on that saddle point just was a little bit more pleasing than dead center. But dead center didn't look bad either. the left to right rule, we read left to right, right?
Mhm.
And so often, photos, if you can, doesn't always work, but sometimes they'll be more pleasing to look at going from left to right, as this waterfall and glacier and this eagle flying from left to right. Again, it doesn't have to be. These are just tools that sometimes, you know, just has a more pleasing look about them. But it, again, we get to break all these because they're just tools, not rules, right?
Right.
The next is the rule of space. And it's kind of like the one we just talked about too, with having the breathing room around. But within a frame, you want to allow the subject the ability to have continued movement within the space. So an animal that you know is moving, like a bird, a sailboat. If I were to, with this bird, let me see if I can get there we go, find my mouse. If I had cropped it right here, it would kind of be jarring to the viewer, because it kind of looks like the harrier's gonna, fly into a wall almost, right? And so you want it to have some space that that it's moving, and it's gonna keep going, even though I froze that bird, right? Forever with my fast shutter. But still, what's in our mind and what we see, it has to make sense. This sailboat that's out on Puget Sound, he's sailing south, he's sailing to the left. And if I had just cut him off here, it again would have been really abrupt, and it wouldn't have been a settling feeling. But instead, we know he's gonna keep going. And so think about those kind of things when you're photographing things that move, to allow space, breathing room for them to move in and keep going into the frame.
Lisa,
Yeah.
uh, this is something I have a lot of issues with my photography. I mean, with the sailboat, you've got the sun and the sky, I guess that is. So that balances it beautifully.
It does. Yep.
But with the bird picture, I never know if I'm going to place the bird like if it's flying right to left like it is here. If I want to move it a little more to the right side to catch the rule of thirds,
Mm-hmm.
or tool of thirds, um,
Nicely done.
or if I want to push it a little bit more to the left to imply that it's been flying.
Are you asking for my opinion?
Yeah, that's.
Okay.
I mean, in your experience, what works?
I would always. This is dead center.
Right.
But his wingspan was so cool, so I wanted to show the awesomeness of his wingspan. So I did put him dead center. The only other place I would is back him up, so putting more space in front of him. So I could have moved him down to that saddle point right about here. And I still think that would have been cool, because you knew he was still flying in this direction, right? I would definitely not have put him on this saddle point up in the top left or the bottom left, because again, that would just, have him run into the edge of the edge of the frame.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So I think either saddle point on this side or dead center is always a good option for birds, I think.
And
I'm
you,
not
you
a fantastic birder, but I'm learning.
and you have the horizon not level, so it's like you've got the bird more level flying.
Yes, and
Was
that's a yeah, power line. I almost took it out.
Oh, it is. Okay,
Yeah,
I
it's a
couldn't
power
tell.
line.
Everything
Yeah.
below it is bluer, so I
Yeah.
thought it's reflecting the sky. Maybe it's a
Yeah, I should have removed
Okay.
it. Yeah, I should have removed the power line. because he turned out or she rather. This is
Yeah.
a female harrier. Yeah,
It's beautiful.
I should have removed her.
And I like the seagull in that other picture between
Oh.
the sailboat, the reflection on
Yeah.
the water, and that seagull right there. It's a beautiful triangle, framing.
Oh, good job. Yes, very good. I didn't even think about that. So thank you. Yes, Paul, did you have one more?
Oh, no, I read an interesting discussion about pulling power lines out of photos.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, the first time I got software that allowed me to do it, I was deleting power lines all over the place. And
Yeah.
then it was, depending on the picture, maybe the power line adds something because
Mm-hmm.
you have the contrast of something man-made with nature or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
Depends
Yeah.
on the message. Yeah.
Yeah. Good question. All right.
ooh,
Next one, rule of odds. So I don't know if you ever heard this. The first time I ever heard about the rule of odds was I was learning a little bit about flower arranging. And what I read was you always have an odd number of flowers. And I'm like, well, that's odd.
Mhm.
I didn't understand, but it's been proven that an odd number is more pleasing. It could be 3, 5, 7, whatever it is, but
Yeah.
even numbers, I guess, are not as pleasing. So it's not symmetric, which we'll talk about shortly. But so finding things of 3, 1, 2, 3,
Mhm.
1, 2, 3, the rule of odds can be more pleasing because it becomes not symmetric.
Yeah.
And that can just be an awesome way to take your photo.
It's too balanced.
Yes.
With even numbers.
Yes. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yes. And then speaking of symmetry,
one of my favorite photos of yours is
the marina.
yes, I've never
Thank
thought
you.
to do one in the evening like that.
Yeah, this was at midnight, and we were coming back to our boat, and it was so still.
Beautiful.
And I just set my camera on the dock, and just took it because I didn't have a tripod or anything, and came out with this. And I've probably sold. This is probably the most the I've sold the most photos of this
Yeah.
one.
Wow.
So thank you. I do love it. I have a Christmas one too with some of them are I kind of did the same thing, but there's a lot of Christmas lights out on a lot of the
Oh.
sailboats. So
Cool.
but I also love symmetry too, especially if there's reflection. And that can then make your horizon dead center because it's symmetry, because whatever's on top is also on the bottom. And so in this first photo over here, this is in Norway, and my horizon is dead center, but what's up here is here, and this is here. The trees are also um also even on from the top and bottom. That kind of got a lot going on for a reflection than just a straight reflection, but I do love getting, seeing the symmetry from the top and the bottom on a reflection. Obviously the marina, social marina, this is symmetry both ways, having the boats on both sides, but then also symmetry with the reflections. So here, this line and this line, dead center, almost dead center. Now I'm looking, it's not quite dead center, is it?
Mhm.
Another way for symmetry can even be radial symmetry. So this hosta plant that I just did in black and white up at Mount Rainier, actually, and the roundness, it brings the symmetry here kind of through this circle before it moves out. So lots of different ways to use symmetry, like spokes on a bike, wheels, a bike wheel, pedals, circular ripples on the water. You know, if you throw a pebble in and then photograph the ripples coming out, that can also be radial symmetry. Patterns are super fun. You can find patterns everywhere, be it natural patterns or man-made, like these in Italy, in Cinque Terre.
Wow.
And we were up on the walkway and looked down, and these guys were just lined up down the beach. It was pretty cool to see that they were all the same. And so having that repetition, kind of like we showed early on with the buildings in Venice, that with the gondolas and then the St. Mark's, that having that repetition or these patterns that just keep going, and they lead your eyes straight down from this corner up full into the photo and then right out of the photo. And oops, sorry, we'll go back. I forgot that did that. The things like shelves at a bookstore or a row of windows, a full rack of bicycles, rows of lavender growing. These are all different patterns that can that you can see that can bring a really pleasing harmony or just a good visual thing to look at as you're photographing. Depth or layers. Depth can create a lot of interest. And because since photography is two-dimensional, right? We have pieces of paper. It's two-dimensional. So to try to make that into 3-dimension, you know, to show all the to show depth in a photo, sometimes it's hard to do that. But a lot of a good way to do that is to find something in the foreground, something in the middle ground, and then something in the background that can help show the depth of this photo. So the first one, this is Mount Shuxon out here, and this is Picture Lake, and this little plant where the sun was coming up just to the left over here, and so the sun was lighting up this frosted plant. I wish I knew what kind of plant it was. I don't know, but these great red berries, and so it just showed this kind of, again, like an anchor point, but having it in the foreground, which then we had the lake as the mid, and then Shuxon as the background. So you can kind of see the depth going in, as opposed to if I just had photographed, let's say, these trees and the mountain, or just the mountain. You don't get this whole depth of field through your photo. This was up in Snohomish at the Sunflower Festival, which is so much fun. And they had these little props throughout, and one was this actually working door, so you could open the door and walk out into the field, and or you could stand there and, you know, have your picture taken, and really, really sweet. But I used the door partially framing. You can see here, but the depth that this door is right up close, and then you can take the walkway here, leading line, and then you can see how far back this field goes. So lots and lots of depth as your view is taken. You know, think of a train track. If you're standing at a train track, right? Train tracks, if you photograph them or you look at them, they don't do this, right? They start here and they do this, right? Until eventually in the end of the photo, you might not even be able to see separation. Yes.
What actually, going back to the picture with Well, sorry, which was the Chuckson in the background?
This one, Chuckson on the
Yeah.
top. Uh-huh.
How do you pick your f-stop for that? Because I always am thinking I want everything in perfect focus, and
Yes.
yet I think that the pictures where you focus on the plant and things may be a little blurry in the back add to the depth.
Yes. Good, very good question. This is probably F11 is or F13. So that f-stop 11, 13, 15 is to try to get more in view. If we did a F 5.6 and then focused on that plant, everything else would have been blurry, right? So we know we need a bigger depth of field. So sorry, I should have written down but my guess is it was F11 to F13. And then this is another rule. I did not focus right here. You focus your hyperfocal distance is a whole nother talk. But to be able to try to get everything somewhat in focus that has so many depths to it, you want to focus about a third of the way in of a focus of a photo. And if you can focus about a third of the way in, you can get more in focus. Technically, if you want everything to be perfectly in focus, you need to focus stack. So you're on a tripod and you put your focus point here, you take a photo. And then you put your focus point here, you take a photo. You put your focus point here, you take a photo. Focus point here, and so on. And then you blend them all together, like in Photoshop. And that will give you pinpoint focus throughout a photograph. So often when you see professional photographers that post and they're just like dead clear at the beginning and dead clear all the way to the back, they've focus stacked their images. And maybe it's just 3 images, it could be 5. Some do 25 images or 40 images. I mean,
Wow.
it is a lot of work. And so it's just kind of figure out what you want to do.
It has to be very still as well. But early
Yes.
photographers, the nature photographers that came through, I can't even, I don't know how to say his name, Azale Curtis or one of those.
Oh, yeah.
All of their photographs are that way. They take a picture of a city and everything close up and the buildings way back on the hill, like some of the old Olympia photographs are incredibly in focus. The whole depth of field is gorgeous. So
yes. Yeah. So they have taken, and then I don't know how they blended in the dark room, but they sure did. So,
okay. I always wondered how they did it.
Yeah, and so Curtis, I think, something like that.
Okay.
But yeah. So good question, Paul. Did I help answer that ish?
Yeah,
Okay. Tripod. It's
Yes.
really important.
that too.
Depth of layers. Depth can create a lot of interest when you're doing your photographs. This was up at these mountains I was standing up at sunrise on Mount Rainier and photographing the mountains out. So Mount Rainier was actually kind of to my right behind me, and I can't remember the name of the range right there, but with the lighting and everything, you can just see all the different colors of each layer of those mountains, and so that can add a lot of depth that you can see. It just keeps going and going and going, and having the trees so dark and up front even adds more depth there. This is George Washington in Squim. Washington B&B, or I can't, oh goodness, I can't remember. But this can add a lot of depth. So I had the flowers, and if you look real close, these are not clear because I actually focused on the bench. So if I had taken the time and focus stacked, then I could have got, so even if I was shooting at f11, these guys were so close that I would have needed to focus stack to get this through, to have this gorgeous building, have everything in pristine focus. But this is definitely another way to add depth, is having all the different layers going into the into your photo. And atmosphere helps a lot too. So, you know, if you look out, trying to think, oh, there's the moon. I gotta see if you guys can see this. I was worried that inside I couldn't, that I wouldn't have good Wi-Fi inside, so I set up outside. But I don't know, is it clear or is it kind of fuzzy?
No, it's good.
Yeah. Oh, so exciting.
I'm envious. Okay.
It's kind of cool. All right, let me see if I can get that set back up without falling over. But atmosphere, you know, so if you're in a place, you know, let's say Mount Rainier, everything in front of you is clear, but as you look further and further out to the horizon, everything gets a little more hazy. That's just normal. That atmosphere changes. It's not dead clear from what we see in front of us to miles and miles and miles away, right? And so that is a simple way to add depth or layers into and interest into your photo. Depth of fields, which we talked about a little bit, but and what you were asking, Paul, too, is the different depths of field. So we have, excuse me, shallow depths of field, put your subject in full focus with the rest of the photo with a blurred background or the bokeh. So the plant here, this is actually right up by Mount Shuksan. I think it was the same morning of that photo that we were just looking at. And there's this gorgeous frost and this light on this. It was just amazing. And so I opened my f-stop, and so I got the lowest number possible that was with the lens I was using, and took a photo of that. And then you could see this gorgeous bokeh that was all the bushes around it. And so that shows depth, how close this plant is and then how far away the rest. And it just made it stand out, and that light was fantastic to glow like that. Here in Iceland, I wanted the horses in clear and sharp, but I also wanted the mountains behind. And so that was like a F. It was a bright day, so I could have even shot at F15 or something to get big, you know, bluebird sky there with some clouds. But because it was so clear, I was able to. And I'm sure being these guys are a third of the way down, they were my focus point. And because my f-stop was so closed down, I was able to also get the mountain in clear and sharp. All these words that I have trouble coming up with, sorry. Almost done here. So viewpoint. Viewpoints are really fun. It's a wonderful way to change up a scene. So to remember all these different tools are to be able, you don't want to just walk out and take the same photo every single time from the same height. You know, let's say you're using your tripod, or you are 5'10" and you're standing there, and that's every photo is taken from 5'10", or
Mhm.
it's on your tripod and every photo is taken from that. Well, it doesn't help us be creative anymore, right? It gets kind of boring. So all these different things is to look for light, look for patterns, look for depth, look for uh whatever it is to bring variety and help us to become more creative, in because we don't want to just go shoot the same photo somebody else took. We want to make things our own. And so viewpoint is a fun way. I just got my camera super low next to the dirt and then shot up with these tulips up at Skagit, and it was a beautiful blue sky day and sun, um, and I think made for a fun photo. So get down low, get up high, shoot straight down. Maybe you get at the exact height of what you're shooting. Um, lay down on the ground. Anything for a different perspective than I'm 5'6", so it's like anything different than 5'6" is helps me be more creative and change up. I was here out at the ancient lakes today on my way in, and I'd never been out there, and I wanted to see what it was. And often I was, and these are huge. I think it's uh anyway, these big huge walls and lakes, amazing. But if I just stood the whole time at my height and took all the photos, they were getting kind of boring. So I'd get down on my knees and shoot low. So some of these rocks were like right next to me instead of me just being above and then shooting out at the lake or whatever. I was getting down really low. So it just gave a whole different perspective. And again, it's just to be creative and change up and be happily surprised. Uh this one is crazy. I didn't get it and I didn't understand why it even existed for a while, but it's called the golden ratio, and it's a really artistic way that's pleasing to look at photography, and it can be used to create balance. It's like it's back in the um old times, whoever came up with it, the Greeks or something. And it's mathematically, there's this first
Yeah.
thing, there's this whole mathematical thing that I'm like, I didn't even try to get into the math part, but I totally understand as I was seeing it um how it feels. This was actually from our walk at the wave sculpture that Paul, you were at the Ballard Locks, which obviously it's the golden ratios flipped on this one. But it's that spiral. But also this barn in Montana is also right in the golden ratio. So, but it also can be the rule of thirds, right? It's right there. But it's this balance and harmony in an image that draws your viewer's eyes to the most important element of the composition.
Wow.
I know, crazy, right? All right, couple more tips. And one of the things is tame the chaos when you're out looking for compositions. Um, and you go to these absolutely amazing places, just just incredible. And you pick up your camera and you start to shoot, and then you look at your image and you're just like, well, wait, what was wrong with that? Well, often it's that you're trying to get too much in one photo. There might not be a main subject. It's just, I just call it chaos. So we want to make sure there's a main subject. So even if it is a mountain range, it doesn't have to be a mountain. It could be a mountain range, but you don't want so much other stuff going on that the mountain range gets lost, even that there's this over here, and then this over here, and this is in the foreground, and this is in the mid, and but there's just too much. It's not a pleasing way uh to look at this scene. Often, like, if you some people say forests and trees are really, really hard to photograph, and that is true. So you want to look down at, I was down at the redwoods last February, I think it was, and just in very northern California. And it's true, you're walking around, it's like, okay, there's all these amazing trees, and you want to document these amazing trees. But if you just start taking pictures of trees, it's like, it's like, where am I supposed to look? So you actually kind of start looking for patterns, or like that one photo I showed earlier with the trees with the Christmas tree in the middle. So something broke up um the patterns in that, or there was a frame, or there's just, so you try to find a little less chaos, if that makes sense. So simplify the image a little bit, use prominent bold shapes, the repetition, the color, visual anchors for the eyes. There's something in the middle. When I was at Glacier National Park and I was out photographing those trees, all of a sudden there's like an old outhouse in the middle of these trees. I still don't know why it was there. I thought maybe it was a water pump, a well pump or something, but somebody said it was an outhouse, and I'm just like, really?
Oh.
Just out in the middle. But you know what? It was so old and cool looking that it became it was just trees, 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 trees. Then this outhouse, and the outhouse became the anchor of the entire photo. So it actually looked really, really cool. So find maybe visual groupings together. Maybe they're odd, an odd number of flowers together. Anomalies, one thing that stands out. So when you guys, if you get to go up to the tulips, you have a sea of red tulips, and then you find one yellow one sticking up or something. So it just gives you a subject to look at. And shadows and shading are always amazing. So look for shadows as you're photographing. Oh, speaking of shadows, these I switched to black and white, and I love, love, love these trees. And this is in Glacier National Park, actually, also. And but what I loved was also the shadows that came out, or were caused by the trees. And I thought it added a lot of dimension and to the photograph, what maybe would have been maybe a boring one. I still, you could still take a photo like right in here and have a little space over here. So lots of options that you can do, but in this case I really like the shadows
Leading lines.
and leading lights. Yes, very good, very good. Good job. This is Lake McDonald in Glacier, and I use the shadows here to actually show the light. Do you see the light that is here and here? And so it's making its focus, the dark shadows on the side helps you to focus there on the light. This is the top right here is it's in Eastern Oregon, and it's the Leslie Gulch. It's phenomenal, absolutely crazy. It was so spectacular. I knew it was going to be pretty when I drove in, but I had no idea how spectacular it was going to be. But again, I used the shadow here. See how the darkness in here to spotlight, because the light was hitting here. So this here wouldn't have been as cool if all this was full of light, right? But instead it's the dark which focuses forward towards the light, and allows makes the viewer look at this gorgeous light that was there. All right. Long exposures, which we talked about last week, but that is another tool that we have to change up a photo to help us be more creative. Hug Point on the Oregon coast, and I just kept waiting for the water to come all the way up here. It kept coming to about here, and I stood there for a while waiting for the water to come all the way up to this point to get that photo. Solduck Falls, just slowed down that. This was in June, I think, and it was so green and absolutely gorgeous. I mean, this is what it looked like. It was so beautiful. And then doing a little bit of a long exposure. You can always take photos of waterfalls to show the power of it with a short, fast shutter speed. And that is perfectly fine and totally acceptable and awesome, because sometimes you just want to show the roar, where you can hear the roar of the falls. But sometimes you want a peaceful, so you slow it down, and that just forces this peaceful, tranquil look about in that image. So what do you want to show your audience? What do you want them to look at? How do you want them to feel? So photographing a scene, when I arrive and I go to a scene, I try to take it all in first. What am I seeing? Is there a main subject? What is the lighting? Are there reflections? What are the colors? What is it that exactly draws me to the scene? And then once I identify what I'm looking at and what I want to share, I start deciding how I'm going to set this up. What story do I want to tell? What is it going to look like? So often my first shot might be a wide shot, taking it all in. And this is Meadow Point off of Golden Gardens down in Seattle. And this light, no joke, was absolutely this gorgeous. This one morning, it was absolutely spectacular. I was out for a walk and couldn't believe how gorgeous it was. So it's pretty, right? You got a leading line, you got a person of interest, a person adds interest to photos, got some reflections, you got this yummy light. These branches are actually hanging down like in a triangle form, right? We got triangles going on all over the place. But I'm like, is that what I want? It's not a bad photo. It's distorted because of the wide angle, but well, what else is there? So the next, I kind of tighten it up a little bit. And so what now am I trying to capture? It's like, oh, well, this reflection is pretty amazing. And so, getting rid of the bridge and focusing down a little more. And I like that. I like that a lot. You could really see the amazing reflections. And so that was my next. Well, then I decided to tighten in even more and look at these guys, these seagulls that were sitting up on this dead tree. You even have a little bit of their reflection. So I just pulled it in even more. And now there's actually kind of a main focus, the subject of this tree and the seagulls. So I like that too. And so there's so many different options. With photographing a scene, one thing, always remember to turn your camera. The more you get used to it, I forget often to turn my camera vertically. That just everything's horizontal. But if you can flip it and do a vertical shot, sometimes you just like, wham, that's the story I wanted to tell. That's the photo I wanted to take, because everything on the outside might have been too distracting, chaos, maybe. So when you turn it vertically, you might just be truly focused on what you want to be showing. And then walk around. I'm always like, move your feet, Move your feet. Don't just stop in one place, especially if you're using a tripod. It's often very move this light back a little. It's getting a little bright. Um Especially with a tripod, you kind of set yourself down and then you just take the same photo over and over. So I highly recommend for your creativity is do those and then pick up that tripod and walk somewhere else and just exhaust all options in the area that you're going to. And I don't know why my camera just went blurry. Am I blurry to you guys? That's weird. All right. So you can see right in the middle of this photo over here, that's that bridge that was in the very first photo. Okay. So so I just moved to a different section of the pond that was out there. So evaluate your own work. Did the close-up surprise you with a stronger image, or maybe you lost something because maybe it was a grand, huge feeling you wanted to share. And if you got in too tight, you lost that grandness you were trying to get across. Or maybe the wide angle is what you needed. But telephoto lenses, use all the lenses you have. Telephoto, use wide angle, do vertical, go horizontal, and do long exposures, quick exposures to freeze that time. But what the point is truly to do it all, try it all, practice doing them all. Sometimes, honestly, here's a big tip. I will go to a place and I'll look and I'm like, is this even worth taking my camera out, right? I'm like, am I loving this? Am I not? And I'll take out my phone and I'll try to compose something with my phone and I'll go, yeah, I was right. There's really nothing here. And then other times I'm like, oh, this is perfect. This is okay, now I just need to move over here. And for some reason, sometimes picking up your phone and taking a photo with your phone can help inspire you to be creative and maybe see something you didn't see with your eyes.